Welcome into the Week 14 Waiver Wire episode, Fantasy Football Playmakers. I'm your host, Jeremy Poplar, who you can find on Twitter at PopesFFH, joined as always by my co-host, Ryan Mackey, who you can find on Twitter at Mackey_FFB. What's going on, Ryan?
Nothing. Disappointed to find out that I missed the Scott Fish Bowl playoffs, but I saw that you did as well on Twitter, so I wasn't.
You're not alone.
Didn't feel as bad about it.
Yeah, my team is just,
My team got ravished by injuries, man. I mean, it just got decimated all year.
I had a team with Dak, Ryan Tannehill, Calvin Ridley, Chris Carson, J.K. Dobbins, Julio Jones. I don't know. Only my first 8 picks all got injured, so
I was gonna say yours is definitely worse than mine is. That is.
I managed 3 wins. Sure. I did manage 3 wins somehow, some way.
I started the year like I started the year 2-0, and then I lost like 8 straight games, and then I won my last 3. Yeah, I won my last 3 to get me to 5-8, and I just needed one more win to get me into the playoffs. I think.
Just ran out of track.
No, never mind. That can't be right. There's no way.
Yeah, there were some 5-8 teams, so it depends. I mean, it depends on which division you were in.
True.
So,
I don't know. Next year, hopefully I get another invite, be another year wiser, draft a little bit better.
Yeah, same.
maybe for you not take the same guys that you took in every other league.
That's just rude. Real rude.
I'm sorry.
Real rude.
No, what's rude is saying that Javonte Williams is going to be a bum. That's what was rude.
It's never rude.
You were suggesting.
I was suggesting if he was a bum, what would happen to his volume?
You were suggesting that he will be a bum.
I was suggesting that he wouldn't produce necessarily, and what would happen.
Were you wrong?
I don't think that we have to debate my love for Javonte Williams. If you want, we can go to Twitter and I'll just start pulling them all up.
Well, then you gotta stand your ground with it. Then you can't go and say, "Well, what if he?"
Yes, I can. I can be devil's advocate. It's the truth. What would have happened? You know what I'm saying? Now he's untouchable. What if he had put up 5 points?
He was untouchable before. As soon as he got announced as a starter, he was untouchable.
He was still touchable. Now, though, he's dynasty running back 1 for like 35 people.
For Christian McCaffrey, he was touchable, but that's about it.
Just saying. I
don't know, man. He was pretty untouchable.
Yeah, he kind of was. But either way.
What's up? What do you got for me?
More injuries. Week 13, Fantastic. Aside from the Bills not being able to score points yet again.
What a brutal game.
We can blame the weather. We can blame anything. Anything you want. Doesn't matter. They didn't execute. They looked bad. Should have won the game. Over. That's all we're going to talk about because I just can't talk about the rest of it.
Yeah.
Injuries. Darren Waller. Still questionable. Ryan, do you think he plays? Do you think we get another week of Foster Moreau?
I think he plays because they are fighting for a playoff spot. I think they're going to try to make a push at that final wild card spot, and they're going to need him if they're going to want to do that.
Fair. Chase Edmonds returning this week. He has been designated from the IR. You think he takes over from Connor? Think we see Connor dip again, or you think they allow Connor and his impressive production to kind of take that lead role for a little bit?
I think what happens there is that I think they play it extremely conservative with his comeback time until he's just completely 100% healthy. And then more than likely you see Connor's receptions and target opportunity dip a little bit, but in terms of like the amount of carries that Connor gets, I honestly see no reason for that to change much because they were able to win games without Edmonds in the lineup and doing what they were doing with Connor.
Fair. I think Chase Edmonds steals some. You know what I mean? I think lose a lot of that. You lose a lot of that upside that James Conner had. But he's probably going to be what he was early in the week or year. You know what I mean? You'll see that same split. I think he's still going to be
a touchdown monster.
Yeah, well, I think he'll still be a viable option for most players who roster him for the playoffs. So
I
wouldn't panic too much. But
what's their schedule look like moving forward? Do you
know? I can tell you. So 14 is the Rams, 15 is the Lions, 16 is the Colts. Please hold for me. 17 is the Cowboys. So pretty favorable.
So you like him in all those? You like Connor in all those matchups outside of maybe the Colts?
Yeah, you could argue the Colts will be probably their worst. Possibly the Rams, but the Rams have been pretty leaky.
Inconsistent. They're kind of like Buffalo, where they're prone to big games, but also have games where they just shut people down.
The Bills have only given up one big game, and that was Jonathan Taylor.
Real. Last night was
okay. Let's be real. Okay, now you peeve me off. It's the same situation as Washington. The run game was pretty anemic for the Patriots. It wasn't like they were running up and down the field. I mean, 65 of their 200 yards were in one play. I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah, but I mean, just when you run the ball 47 times, I think it was.
Yeah, it wasn't like they were literally. It wasn't like it was Jonathan Taylor running all over us again. It just, it's 47 things. The Bills are a little too aggressive. They overrun their holes. They allow big gaps. That's what happened with Damian Harris. It's just I just don't want to talk about it. David Njoku, COVID, could miss this week. Kind of interesting. He seems like one of their top targets at the moment, outside of Landry. So it could be interesting to see, especially in a tough matchup against Baltimore. Unfortunately, Harrison Bryant's also doubtful, so it looks like it might be an Austin Hooper show. Definitely might be someone who's viable this week if both of these other tight ends miss.
I think Austin Hooper would definitely be a guy to consider if you're streaming the tight end position for this week, just because Baltimore gives up so many points to tight ends, at least on a per game basis for the year.
Especially if
still bottom 5 in the league. So
yeah, especially if Njoku and Bryant both miss. Yeah, you know what I mean? Absolutely. That production's always usually split between them. So if one guy gets it, he's definitely viable.
And I'm pretty sure I saw that Cleveland is currently leading the league in target percentage to tight ends. Not sure if that's memory serves me right, but I'm pretty sure that's what I saw when I was looking.
Sounds right.
Looking up information. So if both of those guys are out, definitely if you're in a tight spot for tight ends, I wouldn't be hesitant to pick him up. Austin Hooper, that is.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree. Melvin Gordon continues to be questionable this week. Hopefully we get week 2 of the Javonte Williams show. Especially against the Lions, you could see another RB1 week from Javonte Williams. If he does sit, I honestly think he will play Melvin Gordon. That is, so I do think we unfortunately will have to wait till 2022 for the rest of the Javonte Williams show. But both will probably be what they have been all year: flex plays going through the playoffs.
So I got a quick question on that, Jeremy. Knowing what we saw on Sunday from Javonte, and this is kind of like an out there thought, but I was thinking about it randomly at work today. Don't know why I was thinking about it at work. It's just how my mind works.
Because who thinks about work when you're at work? Duh.
I'm a machine operator. My machine was running good, so I was just kind of like thinking about random stuff. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. No one thinks about work at work. Let's be real.
It's true. But is there any possibility, knowing what we saw from Javonte, Melvin Gordon likely is not returning to this Denver Broncos team next year? would you be surprised at all knowing that these guys aren't competing for a playoff spot? Would you be surprised to see Melvin Gordon take a larger workload share just to kind of save Javonte to avoid next season, like a serious injury for next year?
Yeah. I had an argument, not necessarily an argument, a discussion a couple weeks back on the same premise. A lot of people want to pinpoint Javonte Williams as a league winner just because of the opposite. They think that, the team's not going to compete for a playoff spot. Let the young kid kind of learn his ways, get the nuances of the game down, and just let Gordon sit. And I had the same thought that you had. And my argument is if I'm an NFL franchise, I know what this kid is. I see what he can do. He's a very good pass blocker already, so it's not like he needs to practice. It's not like he needs necessarily to learn how to pick up those blitzes. Obviously, they can always improve, but it's not like he's a bottom 5 pass blocker at the running back position. So for me, I could see that, especially when you have paid Melvin Gordon the money. You know that he's still viable. He's still a option, and why not just kind of run him into the ground and save, like you said, save your younger guy that you know who you have, the talent's there, save him for next year, trying to avoid a significant injury. However, it's always hard to say avoid a serious injury because you never know. But I could see it. I just think they'll just leave it the way it has been all season, to be honest.
Yeah, that's the more likely outcome. I was just kind of thinking about the fact that Gordon's likely not going to be there next year. Javonte just had the big game, so they know that he could handle the workload as the guy. So I was just kind of curious on what your thoughts were on that.
I mean, I agree with you. I would do it if I was them, but I just don't know if you're going to see it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
I think that they'll just run it, and I mean, football's football. Hope that doesn't happen.
Fair.
Deandre Swift is questionable for Week 14. Jamal Williams gave us a pretty dud-like performance in Week 13. So
saw the workload.
Yeah, he definitely did. Just didn't have the juice. So hopefully DeAndre Swift can come back. It definitely would be probably a boost for a lot of people who are going to be without Jonathan Taylor or Ramondre Stevenson or Damian Harris this week, and for what is the first week of the playoffs. So definitely keep an eye on DeAndre Swift. I don't know necessarily if he's going to play. I feel like that shoulder injury is a little bit more concerning than I thought, and being now 1-10 after they got their first win. I just don't know if we see DeAndre Swift this week.
Yeah, I would be a little surprised. Great end of that game, by the way.
It was. David Johnson, Texans, is questionable. I feel like at this point, he's probably not rostered in many areas, so I don't know how much time we want to talk about him. I don't really think he's going to be much this week, especially as Rex Burkhead kind of handles that load, and that offense just looks really bad, even with Tyrod Taylor back in the lineup.
Is Rex Burkhead startable?
I wouldn't. Honestly, I don't remember off the top of my head what he had last week, but I would not be looking to start Rex Burkhead.
It wasn't good, if that's what you're wondering.
I would think that most people hopefully – I shouldn't say that because I'm in that area. Let's see what he had. So if you are playing standard, he had 4.5. So not super exciting. PPR, 5.5. So no. I mean, it's Seattle, but probably.
I've seen a couple leagues where guys have JT on a bye, and then their RB2 going into this week is like Zach Moss.
Okay, yeah, I'd play Rex Burkhead over Zach Moss.
That's what I'm saying. Like, do you think he's startable in that sense, where if you're just if you have those type of options, where you're kind of just
would you rather startable? I mean, you're just rolling dice there. Would you rather have
Rex Burkhead or somebody like JaMycal Hasty?
JaMycal Hasty. for what we'll allude to here in a couple minutes, which we'll just get to right now since you led me into it. Jeff Wilson, knee injury on Sunday. They believe he should practice this week, but he is questionable. Elijah Mitchell is in concussion protocol. So I do not foresee Elijah Mitchell clearing. He may. I believe, if I remember, is this his second one already this year? For some reason, I feel like he had a concussion earlier in the year as well. So that doesn't bode well for the budding star there. But I think JaMycal Hasty might see some run in this game.
Well, I mean, they got
worth a waiver ad.
Trey Sermon's on IR too, so he's pretty much the only healthy guy there.
That's what I mean. I mean, Jeff Wilson, like they said, may practice, but it's a knee injury. I don't know if it's the same injury from last year, like the same knee, but definitely concerning. So I would definitely be looking to add JaMycal Hasty, especially if you are, say, the Jonathan Taylor manager or the Damian Harris manager. In a lot of these leagues, I feel like Hasty's probably still out there, especially with Wilson coming back. He probably got dropped. So I do not know the numbers off the top of my head. Ryan, if you'd like to look it up, you can. As far as the Chargers go, Keenan Allen came down with COVID. It has been reported he is vaccinated, so there's still a chance he can play. But at the moment, he looks like he will be out. So you may have to pivot there. Keep an eye for positive results later in the week. Austin Eckler is listed questionable on the injury report. Sounds like it's a bumps and bruises, kind of wear and tear on a normal NFL running back. He will most likely play. Nothing to be too concerned about there, in my opinion. Philip Lindsey, also questionable for the Dolphins. I feel like he could be a sneaky, viable play this week at flex if he is healthy enough to go. So definitely watch that one. I feel like he could be a waiver wire add too as well if you're in a deeper league. Like Philip Lindsey's a guy I would target over Rex Burkhead, Ryan, who you mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. So definitely monitor him. Delvin Cook returned to practice today. He was limited, but he did return. So there could be a chance that we see Delvin Cook this week. I don't know in what capacity, but there's a chance if you are a Delvin Cook manager. Alvin Kamara is listed as questionable. Haven't seen too much from him or much about an update from his injury. So I'm going to continue to say I think it looks like he might be playing this week. I also could see them not playing him. It is the Jets, so I don't know exactly where they're going to go with that route. But I think Alvin Kamara is in line to play this week, so definitely keep an eye on it. But I do think if you roster Alvin Kamara, you might be finally able to play him over the last couple of weeks.
He was closer to a game time decision last week, right?
Yeah, I believe
so. He was a late scratch. I don't know if it was a game time decision or like a late Saturday, Friday scratch, but it was later on in the week.
They played Thursday, that's why he couldn't play.
They did play Thursday. They played the second.
I think that's the only had they played Sunday, he may have played last week.
I think that maybe that's what I'm thinking of, that's the case, yeah.
So I expect him to play. The only thing I could see is a setback, or like I said, it's the Jets. They may just roll without him.
Right.
Taysom Hill is questionable. Report is that he is going to try and play through mallet finger that he sustained on Thursday. I don't know. How do you feel about Taysom Hill now, Ryan, with that finger injury? He throws 4 interceptions and still scored 24 fantasy points or something crazy like that. So
correct.
Even with the injury, are you still starting Taysom Hill this week against the Jets?
Depends on your options, I guess.
Say you're playing super flex. Like, for example, I had someone ask me, Taysom Hill or Lamar Jackson. Taysom Hill against the Jets or Lamar Jackson against Cleveland.
I'm not.
I know it sounds
Lamar
crazy,
Jackson.
but why not?
Who's your other if it's super flex? Who's your other option to start?
I don't know the other option. Those are the two.
No, what I'm saying that's unless your other options like Mahomes or Herbert.
It might have been one quarterback. You want me to check? I'll check. Hold on.
I thought you said it was super flex.
I thought it was. I don't know. I don't know all the information.
That's an important. You can't ask me that question and not have that information, Jeremy.
All right, I lied to you. One quarterback.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still starting Lamar. I'm not taking that chance.
That's how he just scores fantasy points just because of the safe floor.
That's
There's
the
no
definition
other
of
option.
getting cute.
I'm just saying.
Because you saw what his downside is. If he doesn't rush for 100 yards, then you just had 4 interceptions, and he scores you, what, like 12 points maybe, off the top of my head?
So you're telling me that you would not start Taysom Hill, even though – what is this login? Hold on. Stupid computers. Sorry. Let's see here. Lamar scored.
And if Kamara's back, I mean, they're going to lean heavily on him against the Jets, who are terrible against running backs, him and any other back that's healthy. So you run the risk of that game being out of hand relatively quickly.
So Lamar
and it's not like Taysom Hill has more rushing upside than Lamar does.
Lamar's games since week 9, 16, did not play, 13 and 18.
Sounds like an increase to me after he did not play.
The last game and his lowest of those was 13 against this Cleveland defense he gets this week. Just 2 short weeks ago.
I'm still starting Lamar.
I mean, I get it. I'm just again playing devil's advocate, but now next week you're going to come on and you're going to say that I said start Taysom Hill over Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I absolutely 1,000% will.
I'm just saying it's a reasonable question. When he asked it, I was like, yeah, Lamar Jackson, it seems right. And then you start to look at everything and like it's not as much of a slam dunk as you really think. I mean, Taysom Hill's probably going to run for 100 yards. They don't give the ball to Alvin Kamara when Taysom Hill plays. They just don't.
They started to, as he was more integrated as a starter last year. But like if you look at the numbers, he slowly increased.
I have Jackson ahead of Taysom Hill this week. I mean, I have Jackson as QB4, and I have Taysom Hill as 9.
The thing is like you do have to consider the finger because it is the same injury. Wilson got surgery immediately, and Taysom is choosing to go with a brace and likely to get surgery once the Saints season is done. So who's to say he even finishes that game?
Very true.
Like, would you really want to take the gamble on losing out on the upside of Lamar just to start Taysom Hill just because he did what he did last week, which is also
that's what I feel like you have 2 of the same quarterbacks in essence. Like the upside of Lamar is probably a little bit higher than Taysom Hill, but they both have the same floor and they both have the same ceiling. I feel like, you know what I mean? It's just who do you trust more? And like you said, I'm going to trust the talent in the first round quarterback over the hybrid tight end quarterback
and the non-injured player.
And that also is true. Kenny Galladay, Sterling Shepard, Kadarius Toney, all questionable yet again.
Go figure.
The Giants are in some trouble this week. I would suggest looking elsewhere if you can.
Jake from State Farm, baby.
Any offensive player from the Giants is probably almost sittable this week. I mean, we could be wrong. We said this about Mike White. Maybe Jake Fromm is going to be the answer because Daniel Jones, doubtful. Mike Glennon, questionable with a concussion. Again, don't know if he'll clear. So we could see Jake Fromm. If that's the case, Ryan, do you even start Saquon Barkley?
No. I was just talking to somebody yesterday who's in the playoffs in one of my leagues, and he has Saquon as his RB2 after he lost Derrick Henry. And he was asking me what I thought of Saquon currently, and that was before Sunday. I think it was during the Sunday games, actually. He asked me what I thought of him, and I said, honestly, I think he's flexible at best right now. And that was before the injury to Glennon. So if they have to start Jake Fromm, I'm not starting any of them.
Even against what seems to be a pretty leaky Chargers defense against a run?
No.
Just asking.
Do it. because the Chargers offense is so explosive that game could get out of hand quickly, and then you're kind of forcing Jake Fromm to throw the ball. So you could see some garbage time points, and that's still points. But I think I'd feel much more comfortable streaming the Chargers defense than I would be starting any of the offensive players for the Giants.
Fair. One of those players you can either try and stream, or hopefully you already acquire him, Elijah Moore. You want to know why? It's Elijah Moore season. Corey Davis hits the IR with an abdominal injury. And we see just highlights after highlights of Elijah Moore cooking DBs. Let's just hope Zach Wilson can find him.
So
and
did
not
we
underthrow him.
did our question of was it just an adjustment period for Elijah Mitchell get answered, do you think? Or Elijah Moore get answered, do you think?
Yes and no. I think Elijah Moore has definitely gotten better, made a slight adjustment. I believe he was injured a little bit in camp too, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
So a little bit of a slow start. No big deal. This guy is legit. He is a man beater. He is just great. And I think as long as Zach Wilson can develop into a quarterback who can actually hit his wide receivers on a more regular basis, Elijah Moore is going to be a great asset in 2022.
Yes.
But for right now, going forward, I definitely still think he's a flexible player. We've seen it. He's produced 20, 30-point weeks, as well as just some goose eggs. So he's a hard player, hard forecast, but in somewhat least seems decent matchups. I feel like Elijah Moore is definitely startable. It seems like they look to him in the red zone just because of his good route running. So I definitely still like Elijah Moore, and I think this Corey Davis injury is definitely going to give him even better bump. So,
are you back on Jamison Crowder after the Corey Davis injury?
I mean, it might be flexible, but probably not. I just feel like at this
guard points last week against a relatively tough Eagles secondary.
I was really surprised by that game, to be honest. I think the Jets did very well against the Eagles. I know they didn't win, but like as far as fantasy points go, Elijah Moore had a good night. Crowder had a good day. So like I was really surprised. I thought that Eagles secondary would eat Zach Wilson alive. So yeah, I mean I don't hate it, but I'm not like jumping for Jamison Crowder. If you get him really cheap and you still don't have a deadline in your dynasty leagues, and you are looking for like a depth piece to add to your roster to possibly make that run, I don't hate that at all. J.D. McKissick is listed as questionable with a neck injury, so I haven't heard too much. I don't know if he's going to be available this week. Either way, it seems like it's been Antonio Gibson, especially on the ground, and just Gibson's looked great. So yes. McKissick will definitely be flexible when he returns because I'm sure they'll give him his role. But I could see McKissick sitting this week as well. Just because, like Ryan had said, when that injury happened, it wasn't very pretty.
Yeah.
Ryan, week 13's concluded. What was your biggest surprise this week in fantasy?
Well, you missed out on a lot of injuries, man.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
Who else got hurt?
Adam Thielen.
Oh, yeah. That was weird. He wasn't listed on their injury report.
Joe Burrow. T. Higgins.
T. Higgins got hurt?
Yeah.
He's not listed on here.
It's probably because he had an ankle sprain. It's considered to be mild. He left briefly in that game, came back and saw 5 targets, but he's still something to monitor moving forward in case he suffers a setback throughout the week in practice.
Oh, see, this is how they – see, yeah. That's how they got me. ESPN listed by date. So technically his questionable tag was still from December 5th. So I assumed we had surpassed that point. Apparently we have not. I see. You're right. Joe Burrow, though, and T. Higgins. Good point. Yes. Great things to monitor. Joe Burrow is definitely a concern. Another one with a finger injury. This one is to his pinky finger. I know on the Monday Night Football broadcast, the great and respectable Alex Smith said, if any finger that you want hurt, at least it's the pinky. It's the first to leave the football when throwing for most quarterbacks. So I'm sure it will still affect him to an extent, but it's not as severe as, say, Taysom Hill or Russell Wilson with the middle finger.
Did you see the still of his hand?
I mean, sort of. I saw it like on the video. I didn't see like a still frame, but I saw like when it happened. I saw it.
I saw a still picture of it, and his hand was massive. Like, it was gross looking. Like, it did not look comfortable at all.
Ryan, come on.
I mean, he finished the game, and
we don't know. I'm just saying we don't need that. We don't need the. I just ate. All right. We don't need the.
Why are you eating so late? It's 8:30.
Exactly. We just don't need the picture. All right. We get it. The finger was not
like puffed out and like
okay. Enough.
And that.
Yeah.
It was,
all right. Enough. All right. Otherwise, you're finishing the podcast yourself. Because I'll be leaving.
At least I'd cover all the injuries.
Fine. Continue. What did I miss? Adam Thielen.
Yes.
Adam Thielen has, I believe, did they confirm it's an ankle sprain?
High ankle sprain.
Oof. Rough.
Which is worse. We just saw Jerry Jeudy miss 6 weeks with this same exact injury earlier this season. So I'm not sure I'm banking on having Thielen back for the rest.
I would think Thielen's done for the year. Yeah, I think he's probably done for the year. If I'm the Vikings, you're probably shutting them down. I think they're out of the playoffs, aren't they?
If they're not confirmed to be out of it, they're right there. They're probably one more loss and they're officially out. So, which is unfortunate because I feel like it's a solid team. But Justin Jefferson obviously will be a wide receiver 1 moving forward. He's only played 1 game in his career without Thielen, but in that 1 game, he had 13 targets, 7 catches, 70 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And Minnesota's schedule isn't great. They go Pittsburgh at Chicago, Rams, and then at Green Bay moving forward. So
that's the opposite of what you want to see.
Yes.
Yeah, but the volume's there. I mean, he saw 14 targets last week against Detroit, 182 yards.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he's got that upside regardless of who he's playing, to be honest with you.
I just feel like he's still definitely a player that you're going to start and most likely have wide receiver 1 upside the whole ride out. You might not see the 35 points he got you last week, but it's definitely an option. He's just too good. But I'm more intrigued for KJ Osborne. I think KJ Osborne gets a big bump here. I think he could be possibly a wide receiver 2 looking out the rest of the season because Adam Thielen was a wide receiver 1 as well as Justin Jefferson for the season. So even that, dropping him, say, 12, 13 spots, I think KJ Osborne can get you that low-end wide receiver 2 numbers in the same offense because I see him picking up those targets that Adam Thielen got. I don't think they're going to continue to completely feed Justin Jefferson. I'm sure he'll see a majority of it, but you'll see an uptick in a couple, 2, 3, 4 targets there for KJ Osborne. And I just think that he'll have some viability, especially moving forward in the fantasy playoffs for some teams that are needing help as a flex option or a wide receiver option.
I agree.
What other injuries did I miss, Ryan? See, that's why you're the injury guy. That's why you got to handle the sheet.
I'm sorry.
No, you're
Logan Thomas. He was initially believed to have a torn ACL, but reports are that he was able to avoid that. The initial testing that they did at the stadium indicated a torn ACL, but MRI and further testing determined that he did not have a torn ACL, but I haven't seen the updates on what exactly he did or what exactly the damage is, but he's expected to miss multiple weeks. Ricky Seals-Jones has been out with a hip injury, so if he's still inactive, John Bates, rookie tight end, would be the starter, and I actually think he might have some streaming potential. Washington tight ends are seeing a 20% target share over the last 6 weeks, and they are a team that is currently on a 5-game win streak, if I'm remembering correctly. So they're a team that's hot. target the tight ends relatively often enough for him to be in the streaming category. So especially if McKissick's not back. If McKissick's not back and you miss out on guys like Austin Hooper or some of these other tight ends that you might be looking at, he might be a guy that you can add for free Wednesday after waivers clear.
Yeah, I think John Bates is definitely an interesting target. I think Ricky Seals-Jones is supposed to be back this week.
Yeah, I saw he's questionable, but
either way, like you said, once Logan Thomas left, I mean, Bates did have 4 targets, 3 receptions, 42 yards. So nothing super exciting. Their schedule isn't super great either. Dallas, Philly. So if it's Ricky Seals, I'm probably in. John Bates, I'll probably just pass unless I literally have no other option at tight end. I forgot to mention, too, Julio Jones was designated to return from IR this week, so we should be seeing Julio Jones return to the lineup for the Titans against the Texans. So it might hurt Westbrook Akina, and it might hurt Chester Rogers, those types of players for the Titans. It also might even hurt Dontrell Hillard if they can kind of get Julio involved, and hopefully maybe he sees a big target share. And remember, they're also expecting A.J. Brown back next week. So good things for the Titans going down the stretch, possibly for some of our fantasy teams.
It's the right time to get healthy.
Anybody else, Ryan, that I missed?
I don't believe so. We touched on Corey Davis, done for the year with core muscle surgery. The only other thing was Miles Sanders re-aggravated his ankle again. Second week in a row, he re-aggravated that same ankle injury that he missed a couple games with. So Philly's on a bye this week, luckily, so he should be fully healthy for week 15, but that'd be something to keep an eye on coming out of the bye if you have him on your roster for the playoff stretch here, as if he has some sort of setback or anything happens to him that might make him not be able to go for whatever reason next week. That's obviously something that could hurt your fantasy teams if you don't keep an eye on that.
Could it, though? It's Miles Sanders.
He ran for over 100 yards. That man just can't score a touchdown.
Touchdowns are king.
Touchdowns are king. I will give
we
you
forgot
that.
one. Kenyon Drake. Arguable if you want to call it a dirty tackle, non-dirty tackle. Either way, unfortunately, he has had surgery on his right ankle. He is done for the year. If you manage or roster Josh Jacobs, expect some bigger point totals from him, as I expect him to see a majority of the workload. As Jalen Richard, too, is also out because he is on the COVID list. So you might see some Peyton Barber, but he's not going to give you that receiving upside that Josh Jacobs will.
I was going to say, who would hypothetically fill in for that third down slot receiver-ish role that Drake was playing?
Josh Jacobs.
I think it would just immediately be Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, I don't think they have anybody else.
I don't think they do either. I
would have been Devontae Booker, who's not there anymore. I don't think they roster anybody else at the moment.
Good. So start Josh Jacobs.
All right, Ryan.
Good enough.
Biggest surprise of week 13, fantasy-wise. Hit us with the sauce.
Amon-Ra St. Brown as the wide receiver 6 in PPR.
Telling me you didn't predict that?
At this point, I can't say that I predicted anything to happen other than Javonte Williams having a good game last week.
But you predicted him to be RB1?
I'm just saying.
You predicted him to be RB1? You're not surprised by that at all?
By what?
Him being RB1?
Javonte?
Yeah.
No.
All right. Whatever. Okay. Continue talking about Amon-Ra St. Brown, though.
In my honest opinion here, that's where I saw his ceiling this year. Was like if he got a full workload, he had a weekly RB1 finish as a ceiling.
I'm talking about the RB1. He was the RB1 in week 13.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He has had, in my eyes, he had that ceiling all year if he had the full workload. So, no, I was not surprised by that at all once he got the full workload.
Those are some bold claims, sir.
It's not a bold claim.
You're not surprised by Travis Homer? 19 points.
How did Travis Homer get that touchdown? How did Travis
Homer get
great. 20 points?
That was great. I don't care if fantasy or not.
If somebody started him, what a way! Awesome. What a way to get 19 fantasy points.
that was crazy.
I mean, it's fantastic. Good on him.
Yeah. Mine's Mike Davis. He's back. Mike Davis is back.
No, he's not.
Stop you're right. Cool the roll. Slow the roll. I am not trusting Mike Davis. I am surprised, though, that he put up 16 PPR points against Tampa Bay. But he also put up 13 in week 2, so maybe we shouldn't have been so surprised. But this is his first double-digit week since week 8, so I was a little surprised. I would kind of pump the brakes. I'm not expecting him to maybe see this much work, but he might. It seems like Cordell Patterson's work's kind of taken a touch down, and they've leaned on both of these guys as of late. So we might see it. I mean, his workload wasn't much higher. He still only had 4 carries. It just happened that he found the end zone. But he also had 4 receptions, which was the second or third most that he's seen all season. So Mike Davis is interesting. He's a polarizing guy. I mean, they're playing Carolina this week, so he's going to be a hard start, but definitely a surprise.
Was this week Davis's season high?
No.
In PPR?
Mm-mm.
No?
Nope, I lied. Yes, I was.
I was going to say, I don't remember him being...
Yeah, his second highest was against Tampa as well in week 2.
So against debatably the best rush defense in the league, he has his 2 best games of the year in PPR.
False. The only reason is he had 7 receptions in week 2. In week 13, he had 4. He only amassed 25 yards in week 2 on 7 receptions and 37 on week 13.
I'm just saying in terms of PPR total points, he had his 2 best games, right?
Yes.
Okay. Fantasy's fun. It's a great time.
Always.
I honestly don't even know why I do it anymore. Can't
I'm just
predict anything. Can't look at it.
Another news.
Wait,
Ryan,
you didn't even let me talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown. The man finishes a wide receiver 6, and you're over here talking about Mike Davis.
Go ahead and talk about him. I thought you were done.
What is going on here? Why is
sounds like a dog, Ryan. I don't know if you know what a dog is. That's what it sounds like.
I'm not going to have a dog here in a second. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Nice.
Don't say it.
Amon-Ra St. Brown?
I'm sorry. What?
Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Oh, yeah. Why I'm here and why I'm online. Amon-Ra St. Brown. 12 targets, 10 catches, 86 yards, and a touchdown, including the game-winning touchdown for the previously winless Detroit Lions. He is a guy that, Jeremy, I know me and you both talked about him during the preseason and maybe even early on in the season where we thought maybe he could emerge as the Lions wide receiver 1. He hasn't really firmly established himself as that, but he does have all but one game this year. He's had at least 4 targets. So been consistently involved, just hasn't really been able to break out in a pretty anemic offense, especially with Deandre Swift taking the majority of targets. But it was encouraging to see. hopefully maybe he can have a Elijah Moore style of progression. I'm not going to say emergence because I don't think he equals Elijah Moore in terms of fantasy moving forward. But I think he is somebody that offers you a relatively safe floor in terms of a volume standpoint. So if you are in a league where he is available and you are desperate for wide receiver help, maybe you're in a deeper league, 16-team league, 18-team league like I am, he may be a guy that's available, and he would be worth picking up if you need the wide receiver addition.
I like it. Ryan, we're getting close to the hour mark.
We
kind of touched on KJ Osborne as an option. Yep. I think we both can agree he's a good waiver wire add.
Yep.
We had touched on Elijah Moore. If he's out there, he's rostered in almost all leagues, so he's a little bit of a tough one. But Jamison Crowder is a guy who's out there that you might be able to add. Now that Corey Davis is down, you had just touched on Amon-Ra St. Brown, who I think is a good add. Is there anybody else that you are glaring at that you would like to get on your roster for week 14 if you're in the situation that I am in many of my dynasty leagues and or redraft leagues, and which is win and get in to the playoffs here in week 14? Is there anybody else that I should be looking to add?
So if you're chasing upside, which obviously at this point in the season you are basically gunning for that if you're in a win or get in situation, I would definitely say that you would be chasing upside. And for me, I don't think there's very many guys on the waiver wire that has more upside than MVS. Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Only rostered in 28% of sleeper leagues. Has seen 19 targets the last 2 games. And leads the league in air yards per target at 18.5 yards per target, according to Player Profiler. He has emerged as Aaron Rodgers' second favorite target, especially with Aaron Jones not being Aaron Jones, or just being out in general. And the lack of Robert Tonyan has definitely helped his case, I feel like. He hasn't been very efficient with his targets, though. He's only had 8 catches on his 19 targets. But like you said, if you're in a win and get in situation, you want to chase that upside, and he probably has the most upside of anybody that's rostered in less than 30% of leagues. So he's, especially at the wide receiver position, guys like KJ Osborne, he's only rostered in 8% of leagues, so he might be easier to get. But in terms of just pure upside, MVS might be on the top of that list.
How do you feel about Russell Gage? Only rostered in 24.9% of ESPN leagues. He has now taken 12 receptions for 130 yards and 22 points last week against Tampa Bay. They do draw Carolina, though, this week. Mm-hmm. Do we like Russell Gage if he's available in people's leagues?
Russell Gage is very interesting to me because if you look at what he did last season after the bye, he had 4 of his last 7 games. He had at least 8 targets. In all of those games, he had at least 5 targets. And now he seems to be getting back into that type of swing. He's seen at least 5 targets in 4 of the last 5 games. Like you said, saw 12 targets last week, 11 catches. Week before he saw 7 targets, 6 catches, and a touchdown. So I think he's a guy that's interesting. I'm not sure if you can trust that offense entirely, though. He's certainly flex viable, in my opinion. I think he can be a wide receiver 3 flex style of player for you moving forward. The matchup with Carolina is not great. They are currently one of the best in the league in terms of wide receiver production allowed. And then they get San Francisco. But if you can survive that, they get Detroit in Week 16, who are surprisingly not bad against wide receivers either, but it's a little bit better. And then they play at Buffalo in the championship week. So if you're going based off of matchups, I don't love it. But in terms of what he could produce, I think he is certainly a guy that you can put in your lineup as a flex play, wide receiver 3 style of player.
Do you feel like he is somewhatly matchup proof just because of this target share? Like not necessarily like matchup proof, like where he's going to get you 30 points, but like with that volume, that target share, do you think he's at least a plug and play? Like if I added him, is he a plug and play for me through the playoffs? Say I'm losing Corey Davis. Say Corey Davis was a pretty integral part of my roster. Say he was my weekly flex. Can I add
in the playoffs anyways?
All right. You know what? I have a team that's in the playoffs that has Corey Davis.
No,
so
I got it.
Continue with my question, Ryan.
The problem with Russell Gage is that his floor is 0. And that's
Fair.
not necessarily something that you want in your lineup for the fantasy playoffs. But the way he's been targeted the last 3 weeks, I think you can still plug him into your flex position and feel relatively confident. However, should note that he played in 68% of snaps in week 8 and didn't draw a single target against Carolina. So whether that be the matchup, whether that be how the game plan worked out, I'm not really sure because I'm just looking at his stats. I'm not quite sure how that worked out, but playing in 68% of snaps and not seeing a single target is not encouraging for knowing that he's going to play that same exact team this week. It seems like a high risk, medium reward, I guess. Like he could give you double-digit points or he could get you literally 0. So you're just kind of rolling the dice on which Russell Gage you're going to get.
Fair. So if you had to pick, are you taking Amon-Ra in week 14 or Russell Gage?
That's interesting because Amon-Ra St. Brown has a tough matchup, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. Yeah, they play at Denver. So
both have tough matchups. Both are similar players.
I
know I'm putting you on the spot.
I'll take
I'm going to take Russell Gage personally. I think that he is a little bit more integrated in this offense. I know in that game, like you said, he saw 68% of the snap share, didn't get a target. However, that was also 1 week off of their bye week and also an injury. So for me, I don't know if that was, like you said, game plan or just maybe he was still a little from the injury, but I'm going to take it. I'm going to risk it.
Coming off the bye, he had
6 targets,
4 catches and a touchdown. So
yeah, I'm going to trust Russell Gage a little bit more than Amon-Ra St. Brown right now. I feel like the Lions wide receivers are just like a Russian roulette of which one is it going to be this week. So
I will give you that. I will agree with that it's kind of gotten to the point where you don't know who it's going to be for Detroit, whether it be a lot of people were on Josh Reynolds last week. I'm sure a lot of people will be on Amon-Ra this week. So yeah, I mean, I'm there with you. I understand your point for sure. Because you really don't know, and there's a chance that Detroit team could score nothing. And if Deandre Swift comes back, that significantly caps his upside for Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I'd probably go with Russell Gage as well. I feel like he has a little bit more in terms of supporting cast that defenses have to worry about. So he's able to break free a little bit more. Teams have obviously been able to contain Amon-Ra St. Brown for the most part all year. So I'd probably go with Russell Gage, but you just got to know that the range of outcomes is 0 to 21, like we saw last week. I think 21 was probably he's probably maxing out there. That's probably his highest point total of the year, if I had to guess.
Yeah, for sure. I think his is that's where he's capped. I mean, it's still a good performance, but
oh yeah, absolutely.
He's coming off of 18 point performance and a 22 the last 2 weeks. So I'm just going to roll the hot hand. So
yeah,
that's where I'm at. But
yeah, absolutely.
He's also rostered a lot more than Amon-Ra St. Brown. So you might not be able to get him, but if you can, I'm fine starting Russell Gage personally.
Well, I mean,
as a flex guy.
He was a guy that people drafted because of this reason right here. I mean, people thought he'd be the wide receiver 2, and then they drafted Pitts, and they said, okay, he's probably going to be the third target. And then, but they're like, okay, well, if Ridley goes down or Pitts goes down, he's a wide receiver 2, and now he's there. So if you're gonna, if you had that thinking and you kept on to him all year, play him.
Yeah, and he gets used a little bit versatility there. He gets a little bit of the shorter screen. Sometimes he can run the routes, the intermediate routes, deep routes. So I don't know. I just like him a little bit better than St. Brown personally.
Yeah, he's debatably safer. It just, I don't know. It's tough because, like you said, Lions' offense is such a crapshoot on who it could be. So
that it is. All right, Ryan. Unless you have another player you want to talk about. Yes, no?
I do have a guy for you, real quick.
Shoot.
Adrian Peterson.
Ew. I'm not on the train.
I'm not on it either. I'm just curious because he seems like he's probably going to be the goal line back for Seattle if they go based off of what they did last week.
I mean, I have him as a running back 3. So I mean, maybe he's flex viable. I don't know how many people dropped him. Like, I don't know what his. Oh, he can't be lost. So he's 14% in Yahoo, 12 in ESPN from what I'm looking at, just in front of me after I pulled him up. So, I mean, he's out there. If you're really desperate at running back and you can't get on like Dontrell Hillard or say like Devontae Booker's a guy I'm a little bit interested in, especially with Fromm playing. There's going to be a lot of checkdowns. You're playing the Chargers, who are leakier against running backs. And I feel like less people are going to be in on Devontae Booker than they will be Adrian Peterson. But it's a risk there because obviously Saquon is still there. So, I mean, yeah, he's a real low-end flex option if you're really desperate for a running back. But with how bad the Seattle offense kind of has looked since Russell's come back, I know they looked a little bit better here this week, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, for me, he's like a severely capped standard league dart throw.
Yeah, I mean, PPR, he's 7.5 either way.
Yeah, because he's not gonna catch more than a ball or two.
Yeah. I mean, his highest point total was when he returned, when he played with the Titans. You know, I mean, they had 10 attempts, 21 yards, a touchdown, 1 reception, was 8.6 in standard. So that's probably what, 9.6?
9.6 in PPR.
Yeah. So like even as a flex option, he's not really.
He's a low end flex option.
Real low end. So for me, I'm just out. Like
I'm with you.
If I'm that desperate, I'll take a shot on Amon-Ra St. Brown or Laquan Treadwell. Like I would be looking way elsewhere.
Laquan Treadwell.
I'm just saying. He's the Jaguars wide receiver 1. So either way, let's end this. Ryan, let everybody know where they can find you if you have anything coming up.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Mackie_FFB. I will have an article coming out for NFT fantasy here, hopefully by the end of the week. I was supposed to actually have it out last week or at the beginning of this week, but had some personal things going on, so wasn't really able to finish it up. So that will be coming. But other than that, I'm just kind of getting ready for. I know a lot of my leagues, the playoffs start this week. A lot of the playoffs starting next week as well. So just prepping for that. And if you guys have any playoff questions, please feel free to reach out, and I will gladly answer anything you may have.
Love it. Reach out. Ask Ryan some questions if you need them. You can find me on Twitter at PopesFFH. I will have some stuff out at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, as well as Yards Per. I have a waiver wire article up at Sports Gambling Podcast right now. If you want to check it out, I'll mention some of these guys that we talked about today. If not, no big deal. Just ask me. I'll feel free to fill you in. But until Sunday, hopefully your waiver wires go through. Hopefully you're in the playoffs. I'm surprisingly have a chance in like 11 leagues, despite how bad my season's been. Had a good run. A lot of them have reached 500, so hopefully, fingers crossed. Week 14 is better to me, although I'll probably be the Bills and just tank it. So
shut your mouth.
Either way, till Sunday.
Unbelievable.
Take care.